We're going to switch now to cricket on the SportsMax Zone. West Indies women will have to look for a consolation win in their final ODI on Friday as England women took an unassailable 2-0 lead in the series being played in Antigua and Barbuda, winning the second one-day international on Tuesday at the Sir Vivian Richards Stadium. Player of the match, Amy Jones, struck 70 of 63 deliveries as England posted 260 of 48.1 overs. Sophia Dunkley added 57, while the West Indies skipper Hayley Matthews took 3 for 50. Windies women were in early trouble at 4 for 3 in pursuit of 261 for victory, eventually being dismissed for 118. Rashada Williams top scored with 54 against Lauren Bell's 4 for 33 as England went on to win by 142 runs, the exact margin that they won the first ODI by. Nikhil Uttamchandani was on commentary and he joins us now to review the match. Nikhil, welcome back to the SportsMax Zone. Hours ahead of the West Indies getting ready to take on the powerful Aussies in the second test match in Adelaide. But we're talking the women now, and a real struggle here for the West Indies girls against the English team, who look dominant against the Caribbean side.
Yeah, Lance, it has been a struggle. It's been a terrible, really bad performance, you could say, from the West Indies. And I think whilst they've impressed with the ball and made improvements from that last series against New Zealand, where they've really gone wrong is with the bat and just not being able to put forward those substantial totals consistently. Definitely they're missing Stephanie Taylor, who is still injured, and they're missing that experience in the middle. And I think it's a batting lineup that is solely reliant on Hayley Matthews, and when she doesn't come to the party, well then we know that they struggle very badly, as we've seen in these first two one internationals. And I think it's just a testament to how good this England side really are. It was a shock to the world when they finished fourth at the Commonwealth Games. I mean, this is a team that months ago went to the World Cup final, and I think they've reminded everyone why they're so strong, and I think they enter next year's T20 World Cup as certainly one of the favourites.
Yeah, and Nikhil, the fact is that there has to be some credit to the West Indies for at least fighting on in the second half of their innings, because they were 4 for 8 and 28 for 5. And Rashada Williams, they're battling with an unbeaten 54 to take the score to 118. Not a very good score, but it could have been worse given how they started.
Yeah, I think Rashada Williams definitely deserves a lot of credit. The way she went about things and has gone about things in the first two one internationals, 34 and then 54. She's something where I think an example that head coach Courtney Walsh and the administration, the selectors, can take from. 25 years old, one of the younger members in the squad, and she was invested in from a very young age. I think going forward in this West Indies team, it's an end of an era. It's the end of the Deandra Dottins, the Stephanie Taylors. If you build around those under-19s that will be heading to that historic World Cup next year, and you build around some of the younger players in the region, I think it's better for the future of West Indies women's cricket. And Rashada Williams is the perfect example of that. Someone that, started out a bit shaky, but now is one of the few batters in that team who averages over 20. So definitely, I think the way her defense especially has developed over the years, certainly if she can continue trending in this direction, she could be up there, with one of the best in the world in a couple of years' time.
Yeah, and we have to credit the effort that she put in. But if you look at the effort on a large scale and the West Indies women's batting recently, outside of innings that we can readily remember from a Deandra Dottin or a Hayley Matthews and sometimes Stephanie Taylor, a lot of the innings have been laborious. So Rashada did well last night, but her 54 came off 80 balls. Compare that to the English girls who did well. Sophia Dunkley, 57 off 56 balls. Amy Jones, 70 off 63 balls. Better than run-a-ball rate. So while we will credit the West Indies girls for fighting, the strike rate is something that they would have to pay attention to, because this is white ball cricket.
Well, I think, Lance, yes, the strike rate is a big problem, but my biggest concern is the fact that they're not even able to bat that full quota of 50 overs. Whether it is that they're going a bit too hard, too early, that is still to be seen. But I think you have to bat your full 300 deliveries, and it shows you the difference in quality. This is an England team. You look at the big hitters in the women's game, England, India, Australia mainly. 300 plus totals are regularity for them. This is sort of a constant in one-day international cricket, and that's, I think, where the game is at. So for the West Indies to make 160 in the first game and then 118, it tells you how far behind I think we are. And really, it just tells you how much we depended on a DeAndre Dottin and a Stefani Taylor to get to that top 4 in the World Cup a couple months ago, because this team surely looks far away off of that World Cup performance. But definitely, I think the West Indies have a lot to learn from the way England have gone about things with the bat in hand. That's where I think they have to develop. And we saw it in the women's CPL as well. Scores struggling to get past 110 runs in 20 overs. I just think not good enough. So strike rotation, very necessary. And I think it's now time that we move and build forward using that younger crop of players. We'll get a good look at them in that Under-19 World Cup next year in South Africa. But I think it's time to turn the page in terms of the batting side of things in West Indies women's cricket.
To your point, Nikhil, it wasn't that long ago that the West Indies women were World T20 champions in 2016. Since that time, it seems as if the rest of the world has gone and surpassed the West Indies. Does that expose, you think, the weaknesses in our development program in the region, given the dependency on the DeAndre Dottins, the Stephanie Taylors, and of course, Hayley Matthews? We've seen glimpses from a Kaisia Knight, from a Chedine Nation, from a Rashada Williams now. But as I've alluded to in the past, that exceptional dependency on just a handful of players cannot be the way to progress and move forward. So that speaks to a deficiency in the development in the women's game. Is that what is being exposed now, you think?
I think what it exposes is, you look at, let's take, for example, England and some of their younger talents like a Lauren Bell and those that have come through the ranks. Alice Capsey's another one who played in that first one international. They have made a clear determination that they want to use youth going forward. They've got 3 players under 20 years old in that squad. Whereas I think the West Indies have relied for too long on players that have been in and around the team but haven't done exceedingly well. And it could be a bit as fact that, you don't have much to choose from. But the way I see it is, why not put these younger women in those positions, those high-pressure, high-intensity situations? Let's take, for example, the women's CPL. That is supposed to be development for our women's game in the Caribbean. And just one under-19 girl was included in the squads and didn't play a game. Whereas the USA sent 3 and all 3 played. So I think it's small things like that that make a big difference. The world, you look around the world in cricket, they're all investing in that youth going forward. Shafali Verma from India is another perfect example. They're putting them in those situations early, and it's allowing them to flourish in years to go by. And I don't think we put our younger players in those sort of positions early enough. And I definitely think this series will be a good eye-opener, really, as to something needs to change.
Well, it already is, actually. I mean, it's embarrassing, 2 embarrassing losses. What do you think the mindset will be going into the final game on Friday, given how significantly lopsided the series has been so far? How do the local regional players, how does the West Indies women rebound from these losses mentally going into that final game to try to secure some kind of, consolation victory if they can do that?
Well, they were in a similar situation against New Zealand, where they won that third one international. And, it means a lot now. In the Super League, you got points up for offer. So I definitely think it's a very important game, even though they've lost the series. I think the main thing they'll be thinking is they'll carry the positive from the fact that in both games, their bowling unit fought very hard. In that first game, took 2 early wickets against the English, had them 47 for 2 in the power play. And then in this game, had them 175 for 6, which is a very good position from a West Indies point of view. They still got to 260, and it probably just tells you how deep this England batting lineup is. But I think they'll look to 2 things: the bowling unit and how well they've gone about things. Hayley Matthews leading from the front with her 3 wickets. And then the way Rashada Williams was able to just fight it out. England will attack, and they will be aggressive. Heather Knight has made it very clear that that's the way her team wants to play. But when they are aggressive with the 2 slips, with a packed offside field, it opens up opportunities for you to score. Chedine Nation looked very good before she was dismissed, using that leg side that they left vacant. So I just think it's the smaller things, a better match management, and all of a sudden they could be 220, 230, even a 250 if they really come to the party. And I think that could be a defendable total on these surfaces at the Sir Vivian Richards Stadium, which have been on the slowest side and very spin conducive and at times difficult for batting. So not all loss. You need a win in this third ODI to get some points on the board, and a very important game for the West Indies. Remember, this T20 International Series starts very soon, and the T20 World Cup is around the corner as well.
As you head off, Nikhil, would there be any changes for this third and final ODI? As you mentioned just now, it is a very important game, so it's not a matter of us already losing the series and throwing our hands up in the air. We still have to go into the game with some level of commitment.
Well, they've used Shabika Ghaznabi, a young 21-year-old player. They brought her in for Shakira Salman. Even though, Salman has been in and around she's been in and out of the team, I should say, I still think you want to back your most experienced players in a high-pressure situation against this attack. She has experience playing against England, and you look at that women's CPL, she took the most wickets for the Barbados Royals and was a big reason why they got to the final. So even though she, hasn't maximized her potential in the last couple of series, I still think you stick with her because when she goes into the pitch, which has been very effective for the seamers, she can be a handful, and we've seen success for both Chanel Henry and Sherry-Ann Fraser. So personally, I would go back for someone like a Shakira Salman who can really bolster that seam attack and probably back experience over youth in this final one international.
All right, Nikhil, we'll leave it there, and we look forward to this third and final ODI, as you said before the T20 starts, and get some support for the West Indies girls as they try to battle back. Thanks, man.
Cheers, Lance. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Nikhil Uttam-Chandani there. We go to break. Still a lot more to come on SportsMax Zone, including more cricket talk and an interesting guest dropping into our studio.